Oh my God, we're out here in the woods. We're naked, we're afraid, and we're gonna do a review of the Condor sequoia knife. I hope I don't get eaten by a mouse. Oh, is this tree poisonous? Oh God, where's my poodle? Jesus, it's all burnt. All right, hey guys, this is Jack with Jack Harrison Survival, and here is my Condor sequoia knife. I've had this for about a week. Comes out of the box, looks like this. Nice leather sheath with a belt loop on it. I'm not big on putting knives of this size onto my belt, so I just attached a piece of cord to it to hang it over my shoulder. The knife, the blade is about 8 1/4 inches long. The handle is about 6 inches long. The blade ranges in its width from well, it's an 1/8 inch as far as the spine goes, and the width goes from about 2 inches to almost 2 1/2 or 2 1/4, and then down to about 1 inch out here. The grind it comes with is much longer than their primitive bush knife, and it is almost like a Scandi, but it is a convex grind, and it's a really nice grind. Let me see if I can show you guys here. Anyways, it comes with some artwork etched into it and a micarta handle. The handle itself is about, I think, 1.5 inches or so, or 1 1/4 inches wide as far as like right here, and then 7/8 in the thickness. It's a really nice handle. It's long, so it allows you to choke up to carve, right? So you can choke up, and the carving point comes all the way down to your finger. There is no guard other than this part of the handle here, but you can choke up and you can really use this knife almost like it's a much smaller one. This is a piece of rotted oak, so it doesn't illustrate it very well, but I've got some other stuff I'll show it to you guys with. Anyways, so far this is an incredible knife for me. It came the sharpest I've ever got any knife out of the box, and it has performed very well. No complaints at all. I have not resharpened it or done anything to the edge. The knife itself came in great condition. I'd heard some complaints of the handles not being symmetrical, and you know, the pins popping out so they would maybe cut your hand. Little things like that that could definitely cause problems. But you know, to me, the handle is perfectly symmetrical. I had no rough spots or anything like that that I had to work on. The blade came in great condition with a little oil on it, and this thing just hit it out of the park so far. Super light. As far as the chopper goes, it does have a tendency to stick a little bit into the wood, but I've got a nice, really hard piece of manzanita that I'll demonstrate some chopping on, and this is dry, and I'm not going to chop up here. I have to adjust the camera. But as far as a carver goes, it carves very nice. So this is really challenging material to carve. It's like some of the hardest wood out there, at least not out there, but here in California. You can see that's taking really nice shavings off there. And this is just fresh out of the box. And this is extremely hard wood that's really prone to like chipping and isn't exactly the best wood for whittling by any means. So there's some nice feathers off of this log, and I'll go ahead and demonstrate some chopping here in a second. It works pretty good with batoning. You know, as far as like the spine thickness, you kind of know what to expect as far as how good it'll be at batoning. Personally, you know, I use a knife like this primarily to do a lot of like carving and heavier carving. So what I'm doing as a teacher and on my personal time is I use this knife, and I you know, build a lot of atlatls. I rough out a lot of bows, so I'll use this to actually rough out a bow, you know, chop down saplings, tiny little stuff, debark, carve bow drill notches, carve bow drill kits, throwing sticks, you know, process game, everything from deer all the way down to like raccoons and squirrels, even like a rat or a mouse or a fish. You know, it is a little big for that, but it will work really great. The design is really neat in that you can choke up, and you could, you know, hold all the way up at the tip and use that to you know, gut a fish to make your money cuts. You could use it like an ulu as far as chopping meat and processing meat goes, doing butterfly cuts and stuff like that for making jerky. As far as, you know, making holes for a bow drill, this thing is amazing. it's just, you know, works really well. You know, the first time I did it, I was really impressed with, you know, how large of a hole it made and how quickly it did that. Obviously, that's not like a selling point necessarily, because any knife can make a hole. Any knife can carve if you get it sharp enough. But this thing is seriously amazing. As far as its performance thus far. On these big blades, like I said, I do a lot of carving, I do a lot of notches, I do a lot of bow drill stuff. That's what I primarily do teaching. A lot of splitting wood with like a little bit of batoning and splitting wood. You know, and first, as far as like felling, like chopping small trees, say bigger than 6 or 8 inches, you know, I'm not going to use something like this. If I'm going into a situation where I'm going to be like taking down trees, I'm going to bring a hatchet, you know. How many of you out there, you know, bring a Grants Forest Brooks, like small forest axe, or, you know, Holta Forest Brooks, or anything like a Wetterlings out with you, you know? So many people carry those small forest axe and those hunter's axes that it's like, you know, some of you might argue like, well, why would I carry a knife this big if I'm going to bring, you know, my small forest axe? And that's a really great point. But this is kind of an alternative. But you got to keep in mind that there is no one knife that'll do everything. You know, if that knife is designed to take down big trees, it's probably going to suck at carving, right? Like this will take down, in theory, like any large trees, but it bites. So when you're chopping, it's a pretty narrow spine here, and the edge is very long, right? The good choppers have a pretty short bevel and a steep one, so they throw chips, and so it has a tendency to stick. But as far as carving and everything else goes, it works really, really well. I've even pried with it. I've actually kind of abused this thing for how, you know, little a time I've had it. Anyways, let's show you guys some chopping, and then, you know, talk a little more and wrap this review up. So I've got some of this really, really tough madrone, or manzanita here. So I'll go ahead and I'll show you guys a little batoning with this. Like I said, this is really tough stuff. There's a knot in it. Splits through just like butter. You know, I could continue splitting it down. I kind of want to use this for a knife handle, but splits even nice pieces evenly. It's really sharp. Let's see about some chopping. I'll rough out this little end here. You know, this isn't the best example for chopping, but you know, you guys get to see a little bit of how this thing works. It is a little bitey, but this is super hard wood. So if this would be like, you'd almost have to ease. And I'm not like hitting this hard. I'm not trying really hard. I'm letting the knife do the work. It's really light. So in a survival situation, if you're, you know, hungry or you haven't eaten a whole lot, you know, how heavy your knife is and how much you're working is a serious consideration there. As far as carving goes, you can make feather sticks with it quite nicely. This wood is a pretty hard one to make feather sticks out of, so we'll see how it goes. This is maybe the best this knife has worked on, this manzanita so far. This stuff usually comes off in chunks. And I you know, I've been hacking and chopping with this thing. We use some of the sapwood here, see how the sapwood goes. Yeah, the sapwood's, this stuff is just notoriously tricky for carving. It's not the kind of stuff you would, you know, want to try and light with a ferro rod, that's for sure. Ease back a little, get a little anvil going here. Anyways, you guys get the point. You know, as far as the spine goes, you can easily take off edges. You know, let's see if I can get any big shavings. I'm not a big ferro rod guy, but I know that some of you might be. Let's see if I can brace my stomach up against here. I know this, you guys are probably going, oh my God, he's gonna cut himself, don't worry about it. There's some nice little shavings you can see there. Let's see what else. As far as notching goes, carving notches, this thing is incredible. Works really good. So bow drill notches, stuff like that. There's my first slice right there. You can see it goes pretty deep. Any knife can do this kind of stuff, but I think that for a big knife like this is a hard piece to grip. Should have picked a bigger piece, like in my first video. For a big knife like this, having something that you can carve with is huge. Because in my opinion, that's like the biggest limitation for me. It's like, why am I going to get that huge knife if I can't carve? And I think a big factor in this is the grind and the thickness of the blade. Which some of you might be like, oh no, duh, but it's true. Right, quick little notch. I was chopping on a bunch of hardwood with this stuff earlier for my first video. And overall, you know, it's just a really nice knife. I'm really excited to use it. I've worked on a few bows with it. I think I'm gonna make a video of me building a bow with it from scratch. And this as my only tool. Anyways, you guys get the idea. It's a really nice knife. It throws some nice big chips. As far as making holes for bow drill goes, let's see if I can get this in the shot here. You guys might not be able to see this unless I do it on in the triangle of death here. Do as I say, not as I do. And don't do this. For a big knife, that's a pretty sweet hole. That would get it done as far as handhold bow drill holes. And overall, I'm just really happy with this knife. You can use, you know, you could use it as a draw knife. Brace up against the ground. Obviously, cutting towards yourself is a no-no, but same thing goes with down. I'm really happy with it. I think you guys would be really happy with it. Condor's not plugging me in any way here. It's just a knife that I really enjoy. And I've got to handle a lot of knives through my work. So I hope you guys like this review. If you did, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see any other videos or reviews with specific gear items, please let me know. If you are a knife manufacturer or someone who can provide knives for reviews, whether that's on loan or for the review, I'd be really stoked to do a review of your knife or a knife that you're selling. Try it out, give it a go, whether it's building a bow with that knife or, you know, whatever you'd like to see, a fire kit on the go, whatever. Anyways, this knife, you can get it for about $100 to $130. Really nice blade. I'll post the type of steel on the comments below and a link to where I bought the knife.